Hello everyone, Happy New Year. Just a quick sound check to make sure everything is working fine. Sorry about the roar of the fan heater behind me during the sound check. I will turn it off before the broadcast. It's just flipping cold in here, so I'm leaving it till the last possible minute. Anyway, if this is all working and you can hear me and see me okay, just pop a comment in the chat for me, and I'll see you at past. See you then. Bye. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to In Studio Live, the first edition of 2021. It's our 44th week of doing these live streams, and it's a special week because this is the start of us going twice weekly, Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between the two as we get going. So welcome everyone to the show. I've said hello to, I think, most people who've said hi in the live chat. If you are watching and you're able to, just say hello in the live chat, then I know you're there and I can wave and say hi back instead of me just sitting here in a cold studio by myself. Talking of cold studios, I have a fan heater here, and it is pretty chilly in the studio tonight. The fan heater's down here. If you can hear it and it's getting on your nerves, or if you're just hearing it and you think that shouldn't be there on the soundtrack, then do say, and I will turn it off. I was going to turn it off anyway, and Gary said he couldn't hear it when I did the sound check. So if you're hearing it, blame Gary, because I was going to turn it off. But actually, it is quite nice to have it on, to be perfectly honest. Right, let's get started, shall we? And let's move on with the show. So, if you are new here, let me just explain how these work. Oh, a couple of people on the chat just appeared. David Walker, hi David. Raymond, hi as well. Right, so if you are new here, first thing to say is if you can spare a moment just to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, that'd be great, because you'll get notified when I go live and when new videos appear online and things like that. And last time I looked, I had 399 subscribers, so there's every possibility if you go and subscribe now, you could be the magic 400th subscriber. Let's see whether we can do that by the end of the evening. Secondly, if you're watching videos I'm posting, one of my New Year's revolutions is to try and get more content onto YouTube that's not the live stream. If you're watching those, do pop a comment in the comments on there, so I know you've seen it, and that also helps the algorithm on YouTube know that people are interested in it. If people are interested in it, it'll present it to more people, and so on and so forth. It just helps my visibility. And thirdly, and those of you who are regulars will know all about this, go and hit the like button, and go and do it now. For a bit of fun, we see how many likes I can get before I finish the intro. And the target to beat is 17 likes. And according to this, I've got 17 concurrent viewers. Somebody's just left. But if you all go and hit the like button now, that means I will at least equal the record by the end of the introduction. So go and do that now. Again, it just helps the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you're able to share links to the shows, then please do so. And thank you, Peter Stanford, for telling me that he can't hear the heater. That's what I want to hear. More heater, less noise. Right, so about the shows, the new explanation. These are now twice weekly shows. They were getting a bit long on a Sunday night, so I've changed things up a little bit. Sunday nights are going to be more tutorial and Q&A focused. So if you've asked questions, this is where I will answer them. On a Sunday night, I will have a topic that I'm going to talk about and explain about and answer questions on as well if they come up. But then on Wednesday evenings, I'm going to do the feedback then. Trying to do it on a Sunday night with everything else, a couple of shows ended up running 2 hours, and that was just way too long. It was bad enough for me, so it must have been horrible for you guys watching it at that length. So we're trying to keep it, we're trying to keep them short. A few more names appeared. Stuart and Tristan appeared on there. So hi guys, Happy New Year to you as well. So feedback on your images will be on Wednesday, and I'll pull the images from Facebook, but I'm going to give priority to anyone who sends images to my feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. I will pull images from there, and they get priority over everything else. They get the more time, because I've got more information. Basically, when they're sent that way, I'll have the shooting data as well. So if you've got images you particularly want talking about, then send them to that address, feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. Right, so the usual thing. Oh, what's that? Yeah, they stay up on, these shows stay up on YouTube for a while. I'll then cut them down, add them to the Academy, but extracts will get put up onto YouTube. Now, as evidence of that, yesterday I put up a video all about focus stacking, which was originally, the bulk of it was part of a live stream, pre-recorded bit, but it was part of the live stream, and I've just repackaged it into its own video, so that's gone up there, and I've got more planned for the coming weeks. Right, and oh, hi Linda, who's also watching. Right, we've got 18 concurrent viewers, only 12 likes. Come on, we can beat that 17. Yeah, the other thing, just to say, I mention it each time, if you're finding the shows helpful and you feel you want to contribute financially to keeping these going, there's absolutely no obligation to. I'm going to carry on doing these whether you buy me a cuppa or not, but if you want to, then I've got a link. And there it is on the screen. It's buymeatea.com/Ian Butty, and the link's also down in the description, and it's just a little way that you can say thank you. And I want to say a special thank you to the person who bought me 10 teas yesterday. You know who you are. I just want to say real thank you from. It meant an awful lot to me, that. So I really appreciate it. If anyone else wants to buy me 10, that's the link to do it. One, nothing, doesn't matter. I'm going to carry on doing them, but I want to make that option there. And as a way of saying thank you, I'm working down the list of people who have bought me cuppas, and your name appears on the tea. So this week's tea is courtesy of Peter Stanford. So Happy New Year, Peter. Thanks for the cuppa. Cheers. Oh, that's lovely and warm. Nice. Right, okay. Facebook group, that's the link over there. I think most of you already know about it. Hi, Richard, who's also just joined. That's where we carry on the conversation each week. Do share your photos. It's where the bingo challenge is happening at the moment. For those of you who are taking part, that's going really well. Some really nice ideas coming through there. So there'll be more challenges in the throughout the year, but the bingo one's going to be going on for a little while. And I also put on there information about what's coming up, asking questions and things like that. I do change the cover image on the group once a week, and that's the current image, which is from Donata. Really striking image, that. And I'll be changing it again this evening. At the end of the show, I will reveal what this week's image is. So will it be yours? Stay tuned to the end to find out on there. I have my newsletter. One will be going out about a week's time, I should imagine, with some information in there. So that's where you subscribe if you've not already subscribed to it. I think most of you have, actually. Now, what have we got on the show this week? Well, the theme for this week is my top 10 images from 2020. The review of 2020 in photos. I know we all want to see the back of it, but I'm going to go through them. And I'll explain why I'm doing that as we go through. I'm going to then take a pause and just talk about star ratings in Lightroom, or whatever application you use for processing and cataloging your photos, and how you should use those and how they can really help you if you use them properly. And I'll explain how people are using them incorrectly, in my opinion, as we go on. And then I'm just going to look through how I narrowed down all my images from a whole year's worth, which was 6,000 plus images, down to just 10 for the year, and how I did it and why I chose certain ones and things like that. So that's the plan for tonight. I've got various spots for the live Q&A, so if you've got questions, stick them in the live chat and I'll pick them up as we go through. And have we beaten the record? Well, we've got 19 concurrent viewers, but only 13 likes. Oh dear, 6 of you have let me down. We'll have to keep this going next time, and we will beat that record of 17 at some point, I'm sure. So anyway, Q&A, part 1. If you've got questions, stick them in the chat and I'll pick them up as we go through. There is a bit of a delay from things going in there to me seeing them, because there's a delay on you hearing me, about 30 seconds. I think there's a little bit of a delay from something being typed to it actually appearing on my screen as well. So just be aware of that. When you type something, I may not see it straight away. And right, if you've got questions during the week, that's the email address. Contact me at ians-studio.co.uk. If you're sending images for the feedback show, it's feedback@ians-studio.co.uk on there. So Q&A part 1. I've not seen any questions come in so far. I have got 2 pending questions from previous weeks. Bernard asked me all about histograms. Now, Bernard, it's an important topic. I think I have covered it on an earlier show. I couldn't work out which one, but next week's show, it is going to be something that I would normally cover when talking about snow scenes, which is our theme for next week. Curious that the reason I was laughing is just as I started that sentence, Gary's question popped up. Any advice on photographing snow scenes? And the answer to that, Gary, is tune in next week, because that is our theme next week. It's all about snowscapes. So histograms become very critical to that. So I'll cover them as part of next week's show on there. Tim has asked me about depth of field and crop sensors versus full frame sensors. And Tim also sent me some useful thoughts of his own on that. Now, I want to cover that, but I'd need to do a bit more research. Based on some of the things that you said in your email, Tim, there's a few things I need to research, because I want to make sure I get this exactly right, because you've raised a few interesting things in there. So I'm going to talk about that next week, possibly next week or the week after, once I've done that research. On there. Rick has said that he was just about to answer that question on snow scenes. Feel free to answer it, Rick. Go ahead. Don't let me stand in your way. You might provide me with some useful tips to include in next week's show. You never know. So all those questions, tune in next week for it. So, oh, excuse me. Just want to comment about the photo bingo that's going on in the Facebook group. It's been going really, really well. I'm really pleased with how that's going. There's 15 of you who've submitted so far. 31 people registered for it. 16 are yet to post their first image. 15 have posted so far. And I've been marking up the cards as we go. So if I do that, you can see the cards all marked up on here. I have them in the Dropbox folder, so you can see the marked up cards. And just to warn people that on one of the sub-challenges, to get the first person to get 4 corners, have a look at Peter Stanford's card. He's got 3 corners. So the rest of you who are aiming for corners, You've got to get a move on, folks, otherwise he's going to nab it. So just be warned on that one. He's the first one to get 3 corners. So if he gets the 4th, he will get some prize points, or prize credits as I'm calling them, which you can, if you accumulate them over the various challenges I've got this year, you can, or any point you can, once you've got enough, you can cash them in for sort of virtual rewards like portfolio reviews, or if you're close enough to my studio and we're able to operate as a studio given the lockdowns, etc., things like joining me on a shoot or studio hire or mentored shoots here at the studio are also available on that. So that's the bingo. It did start on the 1st of January. If you want to take part, there's still a chance you can still join up for it. You're a couple of days behind, but you are welcome to join in. And how does it work? Well, you get given a bingo card looking something like that, but in blue, with 25 different themes, and there are the big prize is for the person who fills their card first, but there are sub prizes like you do in bingo, like first person to get the middle line, first person to get all 4 corners, things like that on there. So do let me know if you want a card and you haven't got one. I can generate one of those for you. All the details are on the Facebook group and on my website. Look for the blog about it if you want more information. And as I said, there are prizes. Right, let's get started on my top 10 images from 2020. So why am I doing this? Well, I was introduced to this concept of the top 10 images from the year by Martin Bailey. For those of you who don't know who Martin Bailey is, he is was a British photographer. He's now taken Japanese nationality and he's based over in Tokyo. He does a weekly podcast on photography, really, really interesting stuff on wildlife and landscapes and that sort of thing. If you're interested in that sort of thing, do listen to his podcasts. I very much recommend them. But he does this thing each year of narrowing his images down to find his top 10 and talks about them. And the process of doing that I thought was really interesting. And I've always wanted to do it. And I've never been able to because I've never managed to keep up with my processing. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, because I hardly used the camera in 2020, all my 2020 photos have been edited. I haven't managed to caption them all and keyword them all, but they have all been edited. So I've been able to do it. And I've gone through and narrowed it down to 10 images. And it's a really good sort of summary of the year. It helps me think back over the year, what I've achieved. It's also, if I can do it for subsequent years, it becomes a benchmark where I can compare what my best 10 images were this year versus the previous years, if I had the previous years on there. So it's a good benchmark. It's also a good exercise in self-editing. And there are some people in our Facebook group and elsewhere who really need to learn the skill of self-editing and just being able to narrow down on the best images that you've got, or the best image that you've got, instead of posting a lot of variants on a similar theme. So going through this process is one that hopefully it will help people, and I'll talk about how I've done it after I've talked about the images on there. So let me head over to Lightroom and I will talk about them. Now, am I going to show you all 10 images first, or am I just going to step through them? I think I'm going to step through them and not spoil the surprise. Right, okay. So here we go. My top 10 images. Let's try and maximize this on the screen. There you can see it. I might, yeah. I'm probably not going to leave it on full screen like that. I'll leave it like this because I want the info on the screen. The first one, these are in chronological order, an order that I took them. This image is my first, and I think it was possibly my last open group shoot at the studio, and it was the 17th of January last year, and it was an art nude night with local model Ella J, who was a fantastic model. I'd worked with her a few weeks before that on a Time for Images shoot, and I immediately booked her for a group shoot, which I had good numbers for. And we did various setups there, mainly ones that I've done in the past, so there was nothing particularly new. This particular setup, which is a single harsh light with a grid on it pointing down, you can see exactly where it is by looking at the shadow going along here. You see my... Yes, you can just about see my mouse on there. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the whole thing a little bit better. You can see where it is. It comes down, creates this harsh light, and she got this nice pose, this sort of begging pose, looking up at the camera. And this is sort of, one of the reasons I chose this was I'm a big fan of art nude and black and white monochrome as well. But this one, I did it because it both breaks a rule of composition and uses a rule of composition. The rule that it uses various techniques in it, and why I think it works. The first and obvious one is the lead-in line, but notice her face is bang in the middle of the shot, which you don't normally do. But on this image, it works. We've got this idea of the negative space, the darkness that's encroaching on her, which I really like with it, and it's come out well. And the fact that she's narrowed in on the screen, it's almost like the fingers of a clock, her feet on there. I think it just all comes together on that. And the background is the studio floor, of course. So that was number one. Very, very unusually, because I was trying to avoid, as I'll talk about later, having multiple images from the same shoot. The next image also comes from the same shoot, but is a very different image. Here it is. It's a photo of Rick. Now, this image was a test image while I was sorting out lighting, and Ella was... she was in the changing room at the time, so I just asked Rick to stand in so I could check the position of the lights. And this, I think, works for me. And I wanted to include something with Rick in here. As you'll see, I had a couple of images with Rick in, and it came down to this one in the end. As well as it being an interesting shot, and it's I think it's a portrait that I think works for Rick. It becomes quite a moody look, with him looking down. There's no light in the eyes or anything, and it's this air of darkness which we've all felt this year surrounding us. So it kind of summed up the year on there. And also, the support and encouragement I've had from Rick this year has been very important to me. So I want, in some ways, I'm acknowledging that by including a portrait of Rick in my top 10 of the year. Now, what it is, lighting-wise, is a beauty dish. I hope you can see it on the video. It's difficult in here for me to see it on the screen because it's very bright. The blacks do look plugged up, but I know that the detail's there because I was checking it on my monitor at home. You can see the detail in his jumper just about, and you can see there is a beauty dish up here with a grid on it, which gives this funnel of light coming in. And obviously F8, my standard studio settings. So that was image number 2, a portrait of Rick. And just in case anyone's wondering, normally when I'm shooting against this back wall, I paint out the seams which you can see in the background. And I've chosen to leave them in on this. And I thought that slightly cracked look just said something about the year. I just felt it looked right on this particular image to leave them in. Next one was the month afterwards, and this was a paid client shoot with a local musician also called Rick, actually. And one of the things that Rick wanted was this shot involving his guitar, and he wanted the idea of looking down it, how almost as like inspecting it on there. And we played around with a couple of configurations of this and different ways of doing it. And whilst we were talking about having it in colour, I just converted it to black and white on the fly and got that up on the screen. And we both decided we really like the black and white on there. And if I zoom in, you can see absolutely pin sharp. And one of the reasons it's so sharp on this, let me go full screen for you, is because of the lens I was using, my 70 to 200mm lens, my absolute favourite lens. And I don't get to use it very often in the studio because I can't get back far enough for it. But everything is absolutely tack sharp on it, on there. And it avoids the cliche of guitarist playing his guitar and, you know, strumming away, the idea of looking down there. So I was very grateful to the musician Rick for suggesting that. So that's got included in the set. You'll notice my standard sort of lighting, sandwich lighting. So I've got one light off on one side, filling in big softbox, and then the rim light just filling in on the side over here. So that was image number 3 in the selection. Image 4 comes from the last play that I photographed just before we went into lockdown. And the date on it was the 3rd of March. And obviously the play ran for a week, but this was 2 days before it even opened. So the play finished more or less a week before we went into lockdown. And it was set in an old people's home where there was a flood and all these people were stranded there. And this particular character, this lady, played a woman who was just on stage most of the time, just asleep in her chair and very sort of almost curled up there, not apparently aware of what's going on. But then part way through, the way the play works, it's written by Sandy Toksvig. There's a point where different characters, so just everything freezes and they address the audience in monologue form. And she comes out of this and does this most wonderful monologue. And I chose this over all the different theatre photos I'd taken throughout the entirety of last year, well, 3 months, 2 and a bit months actually, because it was such a good performance from her, and the way she kept the character going, the fact that she wasn't doing anything on stage. And I just felt this really captured her and the spirit of it. And again, it sort of resonated with me for the year that we've had, that we're all sort of feeling a little bit, we've all gone into our shells at times this year and all found the year hard. So that was image number 4. Again, with my favourite lens, my 70 to 200 at 200mm, and it is it's 4000 ISO, but you can see it's still tack sharp, a little bit of noise in there, but still lovely and sharp, that image. on there. So moving on. Yeah, moving on further into the year. This was, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it was still in March, just before lockdown, and throughout lockdown, well, I've been doing some geocaching. As many of you know, I do geocaching. If you don't know what geocaching is, it's basically using multi-million-pound satellite technology to find bits of Tupperware hidden in remote locations. It's a global sort of treasure hunt. And the week before lockdown, the 14th of March, I went down to visit my best man, and we went out to do some geocaching. And as I do, I tend to take shots with my phone, and this was a phone shot, and I wanted to include at least one phone shot in my selection, and this one really appealed to me. Of all the sheep in the field, we were walking along this path, and the sheep decided, oh, these people look interesting, and they all came over to have a look, and I captured it as we've got the sheep in the foreground and all the others heading towards us on there. And editing wise, I've not done a great deal with it. I've done a couple of things. This bar was at an angle in the image because I wasn't truly straight on to the fence, the gate. So I straightened it up and made sure it was parallel with the horizon on there. So there's that happened to it. And the other thing I've done is this sheep in the foreground. They've got a couple of twigs stuck on it, and I've cloned those out. But other than that, other than a little bit of boost to the saturation and the general sort of little tweaks to exposure and shadows, not a lot done with it. But I wanted to include it because it was and is a camera phone shot, and just to show for those of you who are shooting with phones, and I know some of you who watch this do, you can get great shots with phones. Are there limitations with it? Yes, there are. Could I sell this? Probably not, because if I zoom in, you can see the quality of it is a little bit, it's not tack sharp because it's a phone sensor. It's a phone, it's a small sensor, it's a small bit of glass. So you're never going to get perfect quality. But as a memory of the year, it's a good one. So that one was included for that. Moving on to our next shot. Again, talking of geocaching, it became a big thing for me during the year, being able to get out, and that was my exercise, going out finding geocaches and also setting them. There's some that I've created in the Heaton's area, and this is me going out actually creating and checking up on a geocache, and you can see using the app here, created with my 5D Mark III, and I've included this, although it's deliberately underexposed on the background because it's a dark path, but yet this brightness of the screen, I wanted to make sure I got that in there. And you can see on here, I've upped the ISO a little bit. It's f4, 320th of a second, just so I could get this shot of the hand holding it. And for me, during this quite dark year that we've been through, the geocaching was my light in the darkness a lot of the time, being able to go out there, getting that fresh air, and just going for a walk or going for a run or going geocaching. So that was included because of that. Composition wise, it works because it's the bright area that draws you in, and you can actually read what's on there. A little bit noisy, as you can see, fairly high ISO, but it's sharp enough for what I want. This is one, would I sell it like this? Probably not. But for me, it's an important shot. And I hope you can see as I go through this that a lot of the things I'm talking about, these images are personal to me, but I'm hoping there's things in there that you can see. How does it work? Well, it's thirds, it's on the third line at the bottom. The horizon's about the third line at the top, and I've got a lead-in line, and the point of focus is the brightest area of the screen, so everything draws you to that. Moving on into the middle of summer, this shot, this is almost an accidental image. This is in Vernon Park, 2 minutes down the road from here. And I actually created this whilst I was shooting a training video. If you look on the channel, I have got a video, my top 5 tips for macro photography. And you'll see on that video the tripod setup, pointing at some flowers and me creating some shots. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, when I'm doing the videos and I'm recording like that, a lot of the time, the way to actually create the shots and to create the video and make it work is I will do the shots that I'm going to put on screen first, and then for the video I'll go through the process of how I was creating them, rather than trying to do it all live, as it were. It's just easier to do that. So I wasn't paying that much attention to whether it was all set up properly as I was doing it, because what I was talking about, I didn't actually need to show on the screen the photos I was taking. I was talking about tripods. That was the important thing at the time. And I went through the process of making sure everything was sensible. I took the shots on camera, and this is what I got. And I'm really pleased with it. You can see it's 15th of a second, obviously on tripod. It was with my macro lens, my 105 Sigma lens, 1000 ISO f8. And the reason I had to put the ISO up, even though I was on tripod, was because I needed to keep 15th. I couldn't really go any slower than that because there was a slight breeze and this was moving very, very slightly. 15th of a second, I was fine. I could get a tack sharp image. So there's a little bit of noise in there, but the thing to note on this is the plane of focus. Because of the angle I was at, the stamen on there are in focus, and this entire petal is, and that's what makes it work. Everything else goes out of focus in the background. We've got this lovely sort of bokeh type effect in the background, the blur there. And so I was just really pleased with it as I went through the images, that it was one that I felt was worth including in the set, because macro was something I did a fair bit of this year, and that was a good representation of it. So moving on. No surprise on this one appearing in there. Again, it's all about macro, but it's all about the focusing rails, which I talked about in the macro video, but specifically how this one was created, I did it for a live stream, but pre-recorded it because at the time my laptop wasn't powerful enough to do everything live, and it also meant that I'd have to have everything set up in here, and I couldn't have the desk and the green screen and all that. So I did everything prior, pre-recorded it, and then yesterday I released it, all that stuff repackaged as a video in its own right on the YouTube, how I created this Dalek shot. And because I was using focus stacking on here, that's the only way I could get everything from the front sucker all the way through to the back of the Dalek in sharp focus. And if you want to know how that was done, how it was achieved, and all the settings for it and how it was lit, go watch the video that I uploaded yesterday on there. So I've lost count. I think we're on about 7 on here. So moving on. This was the lockdown challenge that we did, and I've included this because it was an unexpected photo. I'd been photographing some buildings opposite this shop, and the guy came out as I'd finished the shoot on the other buildings, and asked me what I was doing. I said, I was just photographing those shops. And he said, oh, photograph my shop, photograph my shop. And he stood there with his mug, and he's really pleased and proud of his shop, that it's open during lockdown because it counted as essentials, it's a newsagents and all that. And I just thought it was a lovely shot. You can see that smile on his face there. So it's become one of my shots of the year because of that. So I wanted to keep that one in there because I only took about 3 shots of him because I didn't want to impinge on his time. So yeah, it was a nice shot, a nice memory as well, and sort of sums up a challenge for me. And yeah, that must have been shot 9 because this is the final one. I started with practically the first shoot of the year, and this is my last shoot of the year, last model shoot, on the 16th, just shortly before Christmas. Had a shoot with a model called Little Jelly Bean here in the Sierra, and this is one of those unguarded moments where I was just setting the lighting, doing some test shots, and we were talking. There was a bit of banter, and something I've said a few times on the live stream about when you are working with someone, just always be ready for those shots. Have the camera in hand, have everything ready and focused. So as she started laughing, I just pulled the camera up, quick focus shot, got the image. And for me, it's that expression, that life. It's a lovely portrait because of that. And I've included it for that because it's a natural expression. It's not a posed expression. But that sometimes is the skill of the photographer, is about getting your subject to a point where they can be relaxed and they can be themselves, and that you can then capture them. So here we go. My top 10 images of 2020. As you can see, it's a very varied bunch, as I would expect yours would be if you were doing the same thing, if you were choosing your own top 10 from the year, and the stories behind each of them on there. So right, let me have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been talking. And let me find it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so Rick's been doing a tutorial on photographing in the snow. Yeah, most of exactly the same as what I would say. Right. An oh no from Rick. Yeah. Yeah, most about Rick being in there. And Andy Wright saying he likes the picture of the sheep. I like the picture of the sheep as well. That's why it's in my selection. So, right, let's continue. And any questions here in chat? Nothing appears to have come in on there, so let's move on. Let me talk about star ratings in whatever application you use. I want to cover this because it leads into what I'm going to say about how I narrowed down to the top 10. And in my opinion, the majority of people use star ratings completely wrongly, in my humble opinion. You're still wrong. People are using them when they should, instead of using pick flags. They're using them as pick flags. They are not designed as pick flags. They are ratings. They are there to define how good an image is. So you'll see online a lot of people saying, well, star ratings, you only ever need to use 0 or 5 on there. 0 if you don't want it, 5 if you want to keep it. Rubbish. That's not how to use them. You use them to indicate the quality of an image, and the rating can really help you when you're going through your images, particularly when you're doing something like I did by narrowing down to just 10 images. So don't use them as pick flags, use pick flags as pick flags, and at some point I'll go through my whole workflow about how I use pick flags in combination with star ratings, in combination with color tags as well, how those all work together, and how you can really control your images by doing that. So this is what those ratings mean for me, from 0 to 5, and let me go through explaining them. If it's a 0 star rating, it means it's almost certainly unprocessed. I haven't selected it, but it's not so bad that I haven't deleted it. It's effectively, it's a hidden image that I don't want to do anything with, but I don't want to delete it. Why might I not want to delete it? Because I might want to refer to that image in case of an emergency. Let me give you a couple of examples why I might have images in my catalogue which are absolute rubbish, out of focus, and I need them. One is a real-world example. This goes back to 2003. I'd just gone freelance with the photography, and one of the things I wanted to do was build up my catalogue of stock images, and I thought it'd be a good idea to get some images of stained glass windows. So I asked the vicar of our local church, could I photograph the stained glass windows in the church? And I said, and I'll also make them available so you've got the church has got a record, a photographic record of all the stained glass in detail. So if anything was to happen to it, you've got a record to know what they used to look like and what they look like. So I set to, and I did I spent an afternoon, and I did about half the church on there. And to try and improve my possibilities with stock photography, I asked the vicar, would he sign the property release form to say I got permission to photograph these. And I said, oh no, well actually I think it's the wardens who actually need to sign that. And he passed it over to the wardens, who got advice from the hierarchy within the Anglican Church, who came back and said, no, we're not signing that. And not only that, he should not have been allowed to photograph them in the first place, and Ian should be told to actually delete all those photos, which I refused to do. Needless to say, I didn't photograph any more there, and I was pretty annoyed about all that, to say the least. So that had happened. I'd processed the ones by that stage that were good. I hadn't deleted anything. 9 months to a year later, something happened at that church, and somebody threw a brick through one of the stained glass windows. At this point, the church realised they hadn't got that to get that restored. They needed a photograph of that window, and they hadn't got one. And they came to me and said, could I let them have a copy of us? Did I have a photograph of that window? As it happened, that window wasn't one of the ones I'd photographed. But as I'd been setting up, I had my camera on tripod and I was just experimenting. I wasn't set up properly. I just had the camera pointing in the opposite direction, and when I released the shutter, it was out of focus. But there was just enough detail in there for us to be able to see the colour that was needed in that for the stained glass, and they were able to use that out of focus image to restore the stained glass. So, had I deleted that out of focus image, that church would not have been able to restore the stained glass window. So that's one of the reasons why I always keep my 0 rated images. The other reason, as you know, I see myself as a photography educator, and sometimes I actually need to show how not to do a shot. And that might be to do with focus, it might be to do with composition and things like that. So sometimes I actually need the how not to do it. So I will go through my 0 rated shots to try and find those, at which point they get upgraded to 1 star, as you'll see in a moment. So I may need shots that I'm not processing. So for me, 0 rating is hidden, but there may be a point when I could need them in the future. So 1 star, what does 1 star mean when I give it to an image? It means I've processed it. It means it's an image I'm not happy with. It's not a high quality. It might not be tack sharp. But just because an image isn't tack sharp doesn't mean I can't use it. A low quality, not quite tack sharp image for a very low resolution web image to illustrate a point on Facebook might be okay. It might not be sharp enough to sell or blow up or even print, but I could use it to make a point on Facebook. So 1 star for me means it's been processed, but the quality is lacking. It's think twice before you show it to anyone, which means it also includes my how not to images. So as I said, I often have the how not to go with how to do it. So those get the 1 star. That means that I only find them in the context of needing those 1 star images in there. So that's the 1 star. They are not generally available or visible. You wouldn't find them on an online gallery by default. I may pick them, I may use them occasionally, but I think long and hard before I do. So, or there is another reason I might assign 1 star. It might be a personal image. It might be a bad image, but it's a personal memory associated with it. It might be that shot of, I don't know, somebody jumping off the cliff in Dubrovnik that I've got, for example, where it's a very personal memory for me. I remember seeing it and it will bring back memories. So I want the shot, but it really isn't up to the standard that I would use in anything else. So I assign it a 1 star. 2 star is what I normally assign an image I'm keeping and I'm happy for people to see. It means it's been processed, it means it's a good image, it's met all the technical requirements, I'd be happy to show it, happy for people to see it, etc. on there. It's sharp or sufficiently sharp for what I need and happy for people to see it. So that's my default. My default setting on an image is 2 star. So majority of my images are either 0 or 2, to be fair. 1 star, there's not that many that fall into that category. So mine tend to be the 0 or 2 going across my catalogue. 3 star, for each shoot that I do, I try to pick the best of the shoot. It may be 1 or 2 images from a shoot, just to try and find the best, and they get allocated 3 star. And that means that if I'm trying to find the best image of a shoot very quickly, because I think, oh, I want to show something from that shoot, the majority of the ones I want to use for things tend to be the 3 star images. So if I assign those, I can quickly get to them. And so maybe 1 or 2 images from a particular shoot. Not every shoot will get a 3 star image. If I've only got 2 or 3 images in the entire shoot, and it does happen occasionally, the shoot might be just to photograph a single figurine or something like that, and I might have lots of variants leading to 1 image at the end of it. And if I've got that, I'm not necessarily going to do, well, there's only one image from that at the end, therefore it's got to be 3-star. No, I'll look at it and think, is it a really good quality image? Is it worthy of a 3-star? Then I would give it. Not every shoot gets a 3-star, but anything that I've got a good number of images in will typically get at least one 3-star image out of there. Another slight difference on this, and those of you who've done theatre photography with me, Terry, will know how this works. My theatre photographs use the star rating very, very slightly differently. The 3-star images are the ones which are going to get printed and go on the wall at the theatre. So those, I might have hundreds of images from the shoot, and 10 to a dozen may get 3-star rating because those are going to be the display prints. So it's kind of appropriate that they get them anyway. They are the best from the shoot. So it still sort of ties into the theme on there. So that means I don't have that many 3-star images. But I've got a lot of 3-star images, and those are my sort of really best sort of shots. Why set them at 3-star, not 4 or 5? Because it allows me to expand. I can then choose the best of the 3 stars, and I make those my 4-star. These are really my portfolio standard images. And typically, they are the best of the 3-star images. So if I want to look at the best that I've shot, I will go to my 4 stars. And then if I can't find it there, I'll go back down to the 3 stars. And if I can't find it there, I'll go back to the 2 stars I work through. So the 4 stars are portfolio standard. So if I need to show someone examples of my work, I'll go to my 4 stars to find them. And effectively, my best 10 of the year that you've seen, I'm allocating 4 stars to those. They're all got 4-star rating. Now, some of them, like the sheep one, technically quality is not brilliant on there, but it's worthy of the 4-star because it's a 4-star for a phone photo. It's a good phone photo. What about 5-star rating? Well, I have to tell you, I haven't got any 5-star images. They are available for future expansion. At some point, I will get too many 4-star images. They'll get promoted, the 3 stars get promoted to there. And at that point, I think if somebody wants to see the best of what I can do, then all the 4 stars, there's too many of them to show. I will then create some 5 stars based on that. And I haven't got any at the moment, haven't created any. And those will only get created when I've got too many 4-star. And I've got over 300,000 images in my catalogue. And I haven't got a single 5-star one. So that's how you should use your star ratings. Whether it's in Lightroom or any other product, if you go through them that way, you'll find that a much better way to be able to narrow down on your images. There is one other stage to all this, and that is review. And I do go through periodically, I'll look at my 3-star images and I'll go, you know what, actually, it might have been the best of the shoot, but really it doesn't rate a 3-star anymore based on where I'm at now. So I may take things down. Or it may be that I'll look at an image and think, you know, I use that one a lot. I put it in my portfolio a lot. And yet I haven't given it a 3-star. I really need to upgrade that to a 3-star. So I'm constantly reviewing it, but periodically I should go through the 3 stars as I did actually earlier today, and think, are any of those that need promoting to 4-star? I still haven't got enough 4 stars to warrant promoting to 5 stars, even after that. Right, okay, so before I move on, Q&A. Have we got anything in the chat? Don't think there were any questions other than I see Linda's had to leave and she'll catch up later. So welcome to the catch up, Linda, at this point. So that's where we're at with that. No further questions coming in. So let's finish off now with the process I used to narrow down to the top 10. And the way I did it was, and this is why I wanted to talk about the star ratings, was I started off with looking at all my 3-star images from the year. And that was 156 different images in Lightroom. So I just pulled those up on there and put them all into a collection at that point. And I then I called that Pass 1 collection. I then duplicated that and called it Pass 2. And then working on Pass 2, I reviewed those 156 images and I looked for common themes. Now let me go over into Lightroom. First of all, let me make an apology at this stage. There are some art nude images in that selection. I'm going to try, because I don't want to have to put this as an 18 rating on YouTube, I'm going to try and avoid those. If I do come across any as I put this on the screen, I will I'll blur them out in the YouTube thing later, and I'll give you my apologies for it being on the live feed on there. So let me go over, let me set Lightroom up before I switch it over on the screen. And here we go. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Oh, Lightroom's running slow. Lightroom's always running slow. Right. Yeah, so here we go. Right. Let's right, why is come on, Lightroom, do what you're meant to do. Behave. Yeah, that page will work on there. Right. So here we go. This is, if we look over here on the right hand side, and you can see in here, that's the Pass 1, the 156 3-star images. And you can see I got in here some that you'll recognize from the selection, and I got 2 of the guy from the newsagents in there. I got 2 of Rick in his studio. I've got a Doctor Who figure. I was convinced this one was going to be in there, and you can see I've got quite a few in there that could potentially have been images in the selection. So that was where I started, and then what I then did was I duplicated that 156 images and created another set here called Pass 2, which initially had 156 images in. And what I did, I then, of those 156, within this path, I started going through and finding common themes. So I would pull up all the images that were theatre images and just think, right, well, okay, from a particular theatre shoot, I'm not going to have more than 1 image from a given shoot. So I've got 10 from a particular production. Let's remove 9 of them. And that sort of narrowed it down to, there, let me make sure this is safe to show. So, yeah. So you can see here with this production, I left it with 2 of them in there. I got 1 from that production, 1 from that production, 1 which you've seen down there, 1 from there. So I got just individual shots there. So I narrowed it down. That took me down to 37 images to choose from. So then what I did, so flipping between things here, I looked at the common themes in general, which meant looking not just across an individual theatre production, but across all theatre productions in that 37, and try and narrow it down from there. Let me make sure this is safe to show by this stage. And I'd gone through and narrowed down all the art nude ones as well to just keep the best on. Yeah, right, at 23, I'm safe to show, right. So at this point, I'll go over. Right, so I looked at those common themes and that pulled it down to 37 images. And you can see in here, I was left then with, I was undecided between two particular theatre images. I was undecided between two images which had Rick in for various reasons in my thought processes. I was down to two figurine images, sorry, 3 Doctor Who figurine images on there. So it was coming down to that. So I was thinking, right, well, I've got it down to 23. At that point, I left it. I left it overnight because it's starting to get really hard to choose between the different images. So what I did next was I went through those 23 and I looked at them fully zoomed in, and any which had any technical faults in them that I didn't like, I removed, and that got me down to 16. So let me go over and see if I can show this happening. So if I select the 16, Control A, go back to there, the ones which aren't highlighted are the ones that got removed in this pass. So this idea of a puddle selfie was an idea that came to me at the beginning of the year, and I looked at it and thought, you know, it's not, the quality of it's not there. It's not worthy of a top 10 image, so that got removed. This image of the woman walking towards the pyramid, I really liked, but when I zoomed in, the settings, it wasn't as tack sharp as I wanted. The pyramid was sharp, she wasn't. I felt she needed to be the point of focus on there, so that got removed. Then the horse versus the sheep, I ummed and ahed over them, and I thought of the two, the better shot, I was never going to use both of them, they're both phone photos. I thought I only want one phone photo. The better one is the sheep, so the horse went. This is how the thought processes went. Then the smoke, I thought, well, it's fairly derivative. There's nothing absolutely tack sharp in it, as you often don't get with the smoke images anyway, so I thought that can safely go. The Morrison's one, when I blew it up full screen, although it looked interesting as a thumbnail, I decided full screen, nah, there really wasn't anything special about it, so that went. The Slovene statue, much as I liked it, I felt that the Dalek and the one of the 13th Doctor and TARDIS one were better examples, so that went. And the cup of tea, well, I wanted to keep the cup of tea in there. I always want to have a cup of tea. But I didn't, because I'd done it under available light, it was high ISO, it was noisy on there. I didn't think it warranted, it had earned its place as a top 10 image, so that one went, which left me with 16. So lose those. So that was the 16 that I got. And this was getting hard. It really was now getting quite tricky to narrow down. And I had to take some harsh decisions at this point. And I had to just concentrate on what's my best work, on what represents the year, and remove everything else that doesn't. Again, let me do the same as I did last time. Come on, Lightroom, show me. There we go. And now if I go back to there, the ones which aren't highlighted, I looked between the two images of theatre and thought the shot I got, much as I love this one as a character pose, I felt that the other one was the more interesting shot and there was more of a story behind it, so that image went from the selection. Comparing the two Doctor Who figures, I kept coming back to the Dalek one over and over again as the year had gone on, so that one I felt earned its place more than the Jodie 13th Doctor one, so the 13th went. Then I love this environmental portrait that I've got of Rick, and it is one of my favourites, and I was loath to lose it, and for a long while I nearly deleted the black and white one and kept this one of Rick, because I don't do environmental portraits very often, and this one sort of worked, and there was lots of elements in it that I really like. The fact that on the video behind him he's going there with his thumb, he's got the thumbs up, and it shows his place of work. But there was a couple of distractions in it. I should have removed that chair out of the way on the shot, and because it was a grab shot and we were social distancing at the time, I hadn't moved it. And this edge just in here, I could have framed this a little bit better. I felt that the other one had the edge, so this version of Rick was the one I removed because of that, and that's where I've lost my highlighting. So let's go back. So that went. Then that left the clock. Now I was convinced right from the word go that the clock would be one of my 10. I absolutely was. And as I was going through, I pulled it up on the screen and I thought, it's an available light shot. Yes, it's a nice angled shot with it, but it is very grainy. And yes, that's atmospheric with it, but I felt compared with some of the other images, it had to go. And that was tough, so that one went. The cemetery one, I put in probably for the wrong reasons. I put it in because I've been doing some work with local funeral directors over the year, photographing funerals, photographing video for them. And this shot was a shot I grabbed on one of the occasions I'd just left their offices. And I'd put it in as symbolic of that work. But when I blew it up and looked at it, I thought, well, actually, there's nothing that remarkable about it. So that went. That took me down to 11. And I ummed and ahed about what else should go. And in the end, I wanted to keep this image of the one-man show that I was going to do at Easter, which obviously couldn't happen because of coronavirus, on there. And I did do the video about how I created this. It was included in one of the very early live streams. So I wanted it for that, but there's a couple of things I didn't like about it. I love the lighting on it, didn't like the way my collar was on there, and I didn't like the fact that actually it was a show that never happened. So although I wanted to keep the self-portrait in there, I ended up having to lose that one as well, which took me down to the 10 that you can see here. And that's how I narrowed it down from, how many images were there? 6,894, nearly 7,000 images on the year. So that is how it was all done. So let's carry on. Yeah, I want to just issue the challenge to you as well to have a go at doing that narrow down. Can you find your own top 10 from last year? If you're one of the people that's very prolific in posting photos to Facebook, and if I may just name a couple of people on here who I'm going to specifically challenge, right? Peter Saltiel, I challenge you to find your top 10 and narrow down your images from last year, because I know you did a photo a day through the year, to find your 10 best images of the year. John Barton, I don't think you're on the chat tonight, you often watch us on the replay. John, I challenge you to do the same, to narrow down your images from last year and find your 10 best images. And Rick Bradbury, if you're still watching, I know you didn't shoot as much as you wanted to last year, but I challenge you, find your top 10, because I'd be really interested to see what you come up with on that. So those are the people I'm challenging. I'll see whether any of you take me up on it. Anybody else? Feel free, have a go at it. Gary Platt as well. You're another one I think could be challenged to do that, because your images are such high quality that the act of having to narrow them down, I think you will find tough, but a worthwhile exercise on there. So have a go at it on that. And let me know if you can do it. Right, we've got no new questions in the live chat on there, as you can see. So at this point, I'm going to wrap up. So don't disappear just yet. As ever, thanks for watching. Do subscribe if you haven't done so already, because I need to find out whether I've got my 400th subscriber at the end of this. Do comment if you're watching it on the replay, so I know you've watched the replay, and hit that all-important like button on there to see if we can get this up. We can't get it up to 17 yet. We've got it up to 15. And again, my thanks to Peter for the cuppa this week. If anybody else wants to buy me a cuppa, that's the link to do it on there. And now it comes to the choosing of the member photo of the week, my banner photo for the coming week. So big drum roll. I wish I could do that. I can't do the drum roll on the desk like that, but this week's member photo is from Peter Saltiel, the moonshot that he posted as part of the bingo challenge. Peter, I hope you don't mind. I've done a little bit of an edit to it to remove your watermark because of where it fell on the thing, and I've also extended the left-hand side so that it works nicely as a banner photo. Hope you don't mind the edit. Your name is, of course, still embedded on there with the words "Member Photo of the Week" by Peter Saltiel. So congratulations, Peter, on that. And I will be changing the image on the Facebook group very, very shortly, once the show is over. So whose will be next week's? So talking of next week, right, on Wednesday is the feedback session, which will follow on from what I've been talking on here. And I'm going to look at the photos that have been posted over about the last 10 days. I'm going to give special emphasis to anything that's been sent to feedback@ins-studio.co.uk, and I will also give emphasis to any which have been tagged as being your best images of 2020, because that's the theme for it. But other than that, I'll then pick up on some of the bingo images, some of the other stuff that's been posted, and give feedback on that. So anything up till about lunchtime on Wednesday could be included in there. Then next Sunday, as we alluded to earlier, I'm going to do the snowscapes. I've just noticed a question's come in from Peter saying photos via WeTransfer. Yeah, if you do a top 10 of last year and you want to send them to me, do send them via WeTransfer, or again, use that email address, feedback at Ian's-studio is the best way to get them to me, because it then just keeps them all in the right place for me. So next Sunday, I'm going to look at snowscapes and advice about photographing in the snow. So this week, between now and then, carry on posting your top 10s, but the other ones to start posting are your snowscape images and your snow images, and I'll give you feedback on those in a week on Wednesday, but I'll talk about the techniques next Sunday on that. So, thank you for watching. Do make sure you subscribe to all my different YouTube channels, including the Learn Lightroom one, because there was a video I posted there 2 days ago. I linked to it on the Facebook group. If things go to plan later this week, there should be some new stuff appearing on the travel photography one. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do so. And of course, subscribe to the In-Studio main channel. So thanks for watching, and until next week, or until Wednesday, I should say, keep making great photos, and bye for now. Right, time to do the cut down ending as normal. Hey, I managed to keep this down to only an hour 20 minutes. Still an improvement. Right, okay, anyway, other ending. Thanks for watching this cut down version of In-Studio Live. The full version's now in my academy. Highlights are here on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe for that, or even consider joining the Academy. The details are over my shoulder. It's only £6 a month or £60 a year on there. So until next time, thanks for watching and keep making great photos. Bye for now.